Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio. I want to welcome you to another segment of Destination Health Podcast, Finding Function in a Dysfunctional World. Very excited to have on my friend, Dr. Elena Villanueva. I love that, Villanueva, all right? It's kind of like Cardellichio. It's got all these vowels going on in there, and it's kind of like poetic and so forth. So welcome to the program. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm doing fantastic, super excited. I've got my team. We've all flown in from around the country and we're doing some training on bioenergetics, which is, I think you and I are maybe talking a little bit about that today.
I think we're going to be talking about that. For those of you who don't know Dr. V, international speaker, health influencer, co-author of the Longevity Code. You've been on Fox, you've been on MSN, Headline. You're just a media personality going on here. You have different master classes, Mastering Trauma, Mental Health, Inflammation Masterclass. So let's get right into it. Okay, bioenergetics, what is it? Why is it important? And what are you doing with it?
Well, to explain that, I think let's give just a little bit of perspective on this so that everybody can kind of wrap their brain around it. Um,
Absolutely.
what we do, we have an international educational and coaching platform where we're working with really the sickest people on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel very, very blessed to be doing so. And we we teach people what the most common root causes of
Mm-hmm.
chronic illness, mental health disorders, neurodegenerative disease, autoimmune disease, you name it. You just insert condition or symptom or disease,
Right.
doesn't matter what it is. There are a handful of common root causes, with the number one most overlooked root cause being unprocessed emotions, unprocessed trauma, which 100% of the planet has, whether
We
they
all, we
realize
all do. We all
whether
do, right?
when
Right,
you
Dr. V?
have, yeah,
Right.
exactly. When you're living the human experience, or the human experience that we're all living in, we're not taught the proper way. We're not conscious enough to understand
Mm-hmm.
how our emotions and our thoughts and our belief systems and even the words we use, the words that come out of our mouth,
Right.
carry frequencies of transmission of information. That information is what creates matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's what creates matter, which is like the physical things that we see in the 3D world. It's
Mm-hmm.
all, this is all quantum physics. It's all physics. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, that is the number one most overlooked root cause of chronic illness, conditions, and diseases. Our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, our emotions, our belief systems, and these unprocessed traumas and emotions that get stuck in our body, and they change our bioenergetic control system, which is the main system. It is think of it as our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's our
Right.
soul. But if we look at what is our soul, if we look at it from a scientific perspective, which with
Right.
technology and the
Right.
evolution of our existence, we're able to actually put science behind it so we can understand what is our soul. What is it? It is a frequency of
Mm-hmm.
information. It's energy. It's a vibrational frequency, and this is where the future of medicine is going. And that's what you and I are going to be chatting a little bit about today. And now we can start to talk about this bioenergetic control
Mm-hmm.
system. Now that everybody understands that it is basically the information or frequency that is our soul, and it is all in everything that we create in our 3D reality, everything we see, our matter as we see ourselves, it's these physical things that you can touch and feel. It's all an information
Right.
field.
I think this is fascinating. I think that this is important work, and it's something, as you said, that is missing. Okay, in medicine today, it's missing in healthcare practitioners. We're talking about the soul, talking about trauma, our thoughts. Okay, so let's get into trauma. What is this all about? The trauma.
Well, you know what? Trauma can manifest itself in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So we have physical trauma,
Mm-hmm.
which can be, you fall off your bike and you break your shoulder, or you
Mm-hmm.
get hit by a car when you're riding your bike. Physical trauma can also look like the environmental toxins, where we end up with really high levels of chemical toxins in
Sure.
our body that are start short-circuiting our nervous system, or they start causing mental health issues or Parkinson's or these autoimmune diseases. Heavy metals can be a physical trauma.
Right.
Um, all of the food, if we're eating the wrong food that's full of chemicals, that's not real food, that can be a physical trauma. So we've got physical trauma, but we also have emotional trauma.
Hmm.
And emotional trauma typically stems from a heightened emotional event that happens in our life, and it can be anything. Most people will think of trauma as an assault or something like that,
Right.
but a trauma can be something as simple as I remember one that I worked through that I didn't even realize was a trauma. When I was a kid, I remember dressing up for picture day. I was in third or fourth grade.
Hmm.
I was a latchkey kid. If you're old enough, you remember that. I was raised by my father in the 1970s, so I didn't
Hmm.
have a mom that was raising me. And I
Right.
remember fixing my hair and putting on my little corduroy suit, and I was walking to school, getting ready for picture day. I felt so pretty, and this kid rides his bike by me, calls me fat, and splashes mud all over me. And I
Right.
remember that heightened emotional experience
Right.
because I was like, oh my God, I'm dirty now. Oh my God, I don't have time to go home and change. And am I really fat? And then
Right.
I looked at myself in the mirror when I got to school. I had mud all over myself. It was a heightened emotional
Hmm.
experience. But what created the trauma was not the experience itself. And this is what we're teaching in our upcoming trauma masterclass. It's
Right.
not the experience itself, it's your perception around the experience, the story that I
Right.
created around that experience
Right.
that created an emotional charge, a few emotions, feeling that I
Hmm.
wasn't good enough, feeling that angry at him,
Hmm.
feeling embarrassed, all those emotions that I created around the story of what I thought happened.
Hmm.
That is what created the trauma, because those emotions then changed the way I perceived myself. It
Right.
changed the way I perceived the world. And therefore it changed my belief systems, and it changed everything. It changed my actions, it changed everything for many, many years. And those energy frequencies
Hmm.
from the story that I created, that created those emotions created an energy frequency that got stuck inside of my different organs, inside of certain
Hmm.
cells. It
Hmm.
alters your DNA. There's science behind this that proves it.
Hmm.
and
Yes.
then and then we go on with our life totally unaware that that one heightened emotional experience in which I created that story around, that created those emotions, that created these changes in my perception. I'm totally unaware of this, that through the rest of my life, it's creating a new reality for me that I wouldn't
Right.
have had otherwise. And that reality looked like some weight issues, that I always perceived myself as heavy because I believed it, because
Right.
somebody said that to me, and it created these emotions that changed how my
Right.
body was metabolizing, right? And
Right.
it created these relationship things and that I was totally unaware of. And so there's just like a little bit of an example of of what trauma really is. It's not the event itself, it's the
Right.
story that we create around an event that creates emotions that get stuck inside of our body, and that changes how we act, it changes how we live our life,
Hmm.
and it's usually totally unconscious.
This is fascinating. And as you're talking, I have 30 different questions right now that I want to ask you. I think I want to go, once you have this trauma, you have this perception, as you go on in life, is it easier to fall back into that negative pattern? I want to say, if that's the correct terminology, because you've had this trauma, you have this perception. Now, when somebody says something else, it doesn't even have to be about your weight. Maybe you and I are wearing glasses. They call you four eyes, and you don't like that. So now that perception, you just kind of go back to that. Is that what happens?
You don't go back to it. You're stuck in it. You're
You're
stuck
stuck
on
in
that
it.
hamster. You're stuck in that hamster
Right.
wheel from the moment that you create that story with a new
Uh-huh.
belief system that then creates these emotions. From that moment on, you have literally rewired your neurology. Physically, you've rewired the
Right.
neurology. based off those emotions and the thoughts and the stories that you created. So now you are stuck in a perpetual cycle that until you become aware of what happened that is creating the reality that you're experiencing, you
Hmm.
will always be stuck in that cycle, because from that moment you literally rewired, you physically rewired the neurons in your brain and in your body. So you literally changed yourself and your reality. And
Hmm.
until you become aware, until you develop an awareness around it, so that you can then turn around and create new neurology to get out of that, off that hamster wheel, you will always
Hmm.
be on that hamster wheel.
Hmm. So does this start only in childhood? It could start in adulthood. Maybe you have a different perception, and somebody says, "Oh, you're overweight," and you're like, "Ha ha 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 ha." I'm a supermodel or something like that. You're not changed. Can this happen to an adult who's been relatively, well regulated, and it's been okay, and it could just happen at any given time?
Oh, absolutely. This can happen at any time. And this can happen at any point during your human life experience.
Hmm.
But the fascinating thing, and this has been proven by science, it can happen even up to 7 generations before you were born,
Right,
where
right,
it imprints your DNA, so that by the time that you're born, 6 generations later, this can happen in every single generation. This is where we'll see patterns where people go, oh, heart attack runs in my family, or weight issues run in my family, or sight issues run in my family. Well, the
right.
sight issue could have actually been an expression of your DNA that happened with your great, 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 great grandfather, who witnessed something horrible in some sort of a war, or he witnessed famine, he witnessed somebody dying in his family
Hmm.
being tortured, and he didn't want to see it. So after that moment on, his sight got bad. He never connected the story, the trauma that he witnessed, that high
Right.
emotional experience, to his eyesight going bad within that next year. But it altered his DNA,
Hmm.
because he didn't want to see what he saw. It imprinted. He didn't want to see it. So as a protective mechanism, he started to go blind, or he started to have eye issues, and it gets passed down for 4, 5, 6 generations. Oh yeah, no, it just runs in my family. Everybody in my family, we all wear glasses. It could have stemmed from a heightened emotional experience that altered his DNA, that has been passed down for generations. And so that's just one example of, yes, it can happen any time in your lifetime, because that's the power that we have to our healing comes from within.
Hmm.
It's not
Yes.
always a pill on the outside. And if you've
Right.
tried everything, if even the supplements, you change your diet, you're doing all the things, you got your toxins out, you're doing your meditations, you're doing your exercise, you're doing all the things, and you've noticed some improvement, but you're still not totally
You're
there. And you're
stuck.
like,
You're stuck.
what the heck is going on? I've done it
You're stuck.
all.
You're stuck.
Then you might want to consider that you've got some buried emotions, in your body, that could either be from your lifetime, or from previous
Right.
lifetimes, or from your generational upline, that altered your DNA. And so your DNA expression is changing how your biological functions work. And until you become aware of this and you start doing this other work, you're
Right.
never going to find total and complete healing.
Yeah. This is for all of my listeners today. This is extremely important because everybody knows I had a heart attack when I was 37 years old, and heart disease runs in the family. I can't tell you about the other aspect of the family and the trauma. Dr. V, we'll talk about that offline, because I think I'm joining the program because I think this could be beneficial to me in addition to. So, we've all had these heart attacks. I mean, uncles, dads, and all this stuff. We're talking about transgenerational trauma, right? That has happened back then. I can't tell you who my family is. We'll discuss that at another time. But this is like neuroplasticity. You got to rewire yourself in order to have a better life, to express more health, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever that looks like for that individual, right? And it's something that is extremely important to do. Now, listen, there's been an uptick in anxiety, depression, all sorts of stuff over the last 2 years. We all know why, but we can't say, right? So we all know why. And I will tell you, in my office, I can say without being whatever, the CDC said that the average individual has gained 50 to 60 or 30 pounds over the last 18 months to 2 years. It's over 60 pounds. I have 4 active practices, as you know, and I'm seeing 60 pounds. And everybody's coming in. I feel like I'm a therapist, Dr. V, when I'm doing these. I'm the blood work guy. I do the blood work, I do the food sensitivity, but I feel like that's not my wheelhouse. There's been this huge, incredible increase in anxiety, depression, all sorts of mental health. What's going on with this?
You know, wow, there's so much that we could talk about on this whole topic. And this planet, I truly believe that we are having very fast evolution
Mm-hmm.
of our human species.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like God or our creator is right there with us. And we are ready to heal as a planet. We
Mm-hmm.
have suffered enough. We have become very sick. We've made our planet sick. We are an integral part of this ecosystem of this planet. We cannot live without a healthy ecosystem because we are a part of it. It supports us and we support it. And I truly believe that, in order for us to get our healing comes from within. It comes from inside of us. God has given us everything we need to heal. We are brothers and sisters with Christ, with God's Son.
Mm-hmm.
We are that, therefore we are, when Christ was, so I'm not getting religious. I'm just trying to make
Totally
I'm trying to make a
understand.
correlation here. When he walked this earth, he was teaching people, believe and you shall heal. He would say these things to people. And people it's gotten so diluted over the thousands of years. Everybody's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Jesus was healing people. No, Jesus was not healing people. He was showing us how to heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling you, believe and rise, believe and you
Mm-hmm.
will see.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been taught, oh, well, we need to believe in something else that's outside of us. No, it is inside of us. It is
Mm-hmm.
inside of us. What created us, God, whatever the power was that created us is inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
We have the power, and now science is able to put all the pieces together with what used to be spirituality or woo. We can prove it now with science.
Mm-hmm.
We can rewire our neurology. We can change how our DNA works. We can literally change our cellular function with our very thought. So when we believe that we can heal, when we understand how to rein in the monkey mind and start thinking from
Yeah.
our spirit and from our heart, and we
Mm-hmm.
learn how to meditate, what meditation is prayer. It's dialing in with intention and gratitude and appreciation for what it is that you are creating in your body and in your
Mm-hmm.
world around you. When you learn how to do that, you rewire the neurons in your body. You turn on or off your DNA. Your body will start
Right.
working differently. And so this is where the healing is going to happen on this planet. We've suffered enough. It's like, I like to say it like the champagne bottle.
Mm-hmm.
The tops are popping off. Everybody, this is why you're seeing this in your practice. People now, they
Mm-hmm.
can't hold it in anymore. They're
No.
like, oh my God, I have this happening. Oh my God, I have this happening. We've been holding it in for hundreds of
Right.
years and for generations and generations, holding it, all the emotions, all that
Mm-hmm.
in. It's making people sick. We have to let it
Mm-hmm.
out. We have to learn not to fear our emotions. There's no
Mm-hmm.
such thing as a bad emotion. There are some that are very dense, like anger and fear and shame and guilt, and they will make you sick if you don't understand how to process them. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that your emotions are there as signs from above, your
Mm-hmm.
body, your innate intelligence is trying to tell you something. And until you get the wisdom from it and the learnings and learn how to allow it to move through your body and leave your body, then
Right.
you will never find total healing. And so I believe that the reason why we're seeing this uptick is because people are on the verge of healing. They just
Right.
have to, the tops are popping off the champagne bottles. This is good. This means the emotions can no longer be held in. And
Right.
people like you and I who are aware and we understand
Right.
how to move people through these emotions and teach them the science behind what's really happening and how to rewire their DNA
Right.
and their neurology and their body. As we teach them that, the whole planet is going to heal. And that's not to say that we don't need to do the gut repair and get the
Right.
toxins out of our body. Those are traumas too. But we're already teaching people that, and a lot of people around the planet are already aware of those things. What they're not aware of is the emotional toxins. When
Right.
you hold an emotion in your body, it alters your DNA, it alters your neurology, it alters every cellular function in your body. When you let the emotion flow and you
Hmm.
understand how to work with it, and you understand the wisdom behind the emotion,
Right.
that is where the true healing can happen.
And this is for all the listeners, this is extremely important because this is a marriage of what Dr. V does and what I do, right? Because what's happening is that she's looking at it from the emotional standpoint, I'm looking at it from a physical standpoint, and working with both of them together will bring out the healing. And I think that an unintended consequence over the last 2 years is this, because now it's one of those situations where everybody, right, is I like to say on edge, but it's kind of that edge that's going to bring it to a better, higher level than what it
Exactly.
is right now,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
individuals are looking at their lives a lot different, not even a little bit different at this point. They're looking at it a lot different, and they're going to look at it in a way where, they want something more and better out of their lives as opposed to what was going on beforehand. Now, you have a master class coming up, right? On November 6th, on Sunday, it's going to start. There's going to be a link in the show notes. So everybody wants to get into that link.
Yes.
So tell us about the master class. Tell us about how you can look at this and give us a little overview of this.
Oh, this is going to be so great. So, this is the first masterclass that I've ever done. It's a 5-part series, and it's the first one that I've ever done where we talk about this type of toxin in our body that can make us sick.
Right.
All of my previous master classes talked about what you teach your clients. I dive into the heavy science behind how mold can alter your neurochemistry, causing
Right.
anxiety, depression, and Parkinson's. I talked about the science behind how certain bacterial overgrowth can cause overabundance of dopamine and
Uh-huh.
inhibit the conversion of dopamine in your brain that can cause all these problems. Well, this one, I dive into the science
Hmm.
behind how our emotions and our thoughts and the words we use and these unprocessed traumas, how they change our neurochemistry, how they change our
Hmm.
biology, how they change our DNA expression. I go into the science behind it and I show scientific literature that's published in
Hmm.
mainstream
Yep.
medicine on this stuff so that people can really wrap their mind around it and go, wow, what she's saying is true. Then I go into the case studies behind it.
Hmm.
Then I start tying in some of the stuff that we're talking about. I start tying in this. Remember when I talked about like bioenergetics? What is bioenergetics? It's your master control system. What's the master control system? It's your soul. It's
Right.
your spirit, but it is comprised of energy.
Right.
It is, it is electrons and protons and neutrons. It is that,
Right.
and what's so cool is that this is where science meets spirituality.
Right.
And as we're doing this, this is the next evolution of where medicine is going. And this is what's going to finally tilt that seesaw. And we're going to see massive healing on this planet. And
Hmm.
we're going to see an awakening of consciousness, of Christ consciousness
Hmm.
on this planet. It's not religion, it's who we are. So
It's
I'm
what
not
we
talking
do.
about being
Right.
religious. It's the essence of who we are.
Gotcha.
And the cool thing about it is that we can put the science behind it now. And I'm going to be teaching this in my upcoming trauma masterclass. And it's going to be fascinating. And if any of you listening to this, if you have been working on your healing, if you have been on this hamster wheel of suffering, whether it's with your health, your finances, your relationships. If everything in your life has just been going to shit and it's been like that for years and you've been on this hamster wheel for years and you can't get off of it and you're like,
Right.
why am I going through this? You need to watch this masterclass because I'm going to help you understand why you're stuck on the hamster wheel of suffering. And I'm going
Right.
to show you how you can get off of it so that you can have total and complete healing in every single area of your life, not just your mental and your physical health.
Yeah, this is extremely important work, everybody, because when you have this, it affects every aspect of your life. It's just not that you wake up one day and you say, "Ooh, I gained 10 pounds," right? It's just not that. It's your marriage that's falling apart, your relationship with your children, your relationship with yourself, whatever that looks like, everything begins to fall apart. And that is extremely fascinating. And I do want to tell you that I grew up in the 70s, and Dr. V, I did have corduroys back then, so it was
That was the thing back then.
corduroys were the thing back then, no doubt about it. Now, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey in the 60s and 70s. Oh boy, that was an interesting time, I can tell you that. And there was a lot of trauma that was going on, physical, mental, and emotional. It was definitely an interesting time. So this is why I'm going to be jumping into this. So, Dr. V, we're almost done here. We have a couple of more minutes. So tell me if you were to give three tidbits for success, three clinical pearls, what would you say?
The very, very first one that will help anybody and everybody to heal is really being able to embody and resonate with loving yourself.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, 100%.
And you know what? We've all heard it. You need to love yourself. You need to love yourself. And then there are a lot of us who can wrap our mind around that, but a lot of us just don't resonate with it. It
Right.
means that we believe it in our mind, but we're not believing it in our heart. Because something in our life or something in our generational, in our, from our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, something shifted us and we just don't have that total self-love. And what does that look like in our realities? I'll tell you what it looks like. We sacrifice for everybody else.
Yes.
We put everybody else first before us.
Hmm.
Then we're in our 30s or we're in our 40s and we're noticing that we're having some different chronic issues with our health. And we maybe decide to start the journey, but I gotta quit. Sorry, I can't go. You know what? My kid, you know what? I gotta get them some money for college. I'm gonna take care of, I will come back and I'll take care of this later.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? Like, you know
Later
what?
doesn't happen.
My kid needs help. You know what? Everything else comes first. Everything else, you sabotage yourself because
Hmm.
you sacrifice yourself. And this is what happens. Your cup no longer floweth over. You
Hmm.
are depleted and you are empty and you have nothing left to give. And then you end up having a heart attack, a stroke, you end up chronically ill. Your life goes from bad to worse. And then on your deathbed, you're going, why the hell didn't I put myself first? Because you realize that nobody else is responsible for your health and your happiness and your
Hmm.
success in life except for you.
Hmm.
And you waited until your deathbed before you finally realized that you were lacking self-love. So I would say, I invite you to start exploring what self-love really looks like, because once you resonate with self-love, you realize that it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's
No.
selfish when the way that we've been imprinted, the way that we've been trained to, the way that we've been programmed to put everyone else first, even our work comes first,
Hmm.
everything comes first, everything else comes first. It's killing our planet. It's made us sick. It's made us depressed. It's ruined our relationships with ourselves. It's ruined our relationships with our family. We need to learn self-love. Let's start exploring that, number one, because once you do that, your perception of yourself and the world around you changes. And once that happens, your decisions in what you do with your life, the short, very precious life that you have, your decisions change, your actions change. Once your decisions and your actions change, your reality changes, and that's when you get off that hamster wheel of suffering. So that would be what I would those are the last three things that I would recommend. Self-love, which is going to change how you perceive the world and how you perceive yourself, and that's going to change your actions. When those three things happen, your reality, every single thing in your reality will change, and you will have exactly what you have desired and exactly what God has been wanting to give you all along, but you were self-sabotaging yourself because you lacked self-love.
Listen, I want everybody to listen to this again. I got notes. I'm going to listen to this again because I'm making notes on this one. Dr. V is just so passionate about this. She is extremely passionate about this. I think we could probably go on for another 3 hours and not even scratch the surface, Dr. V, on what we would discuss today. But our time is done just for today. We need to have you back on because I think this is an important discussion. Everybody, show notes, take a look. There's a link. Get into the link, join. Let's go. I'm going to be there. So if all my audience, if I don't see you there, I'm going to get really mad. I'm going to stop the podcast. I'm not going to do another one. So then you'll be like, oh my goodness, where's the podcast? So, all right. So let's get involved in this because this is extremely important. Dr. V, thank you very much for being here today. This is extremely important work that you're doing. I love your passion. This is incredible. Keep up the good fight. Keep up the good work. Everybody, live your best life. Join now. Don't wait until later on. Join now because I'm going to send you 1,000 emails. You know that. So do it now so that you don't have to worry about me bothering you. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Dr. V.
Thank you so much.